Blackmail in the workplace. Hi, my name is Anna. I am 33 years old, and here is a story that changed my life. I was working for a large pharmaceutical company in New York City doing market research and developing advertising campaigns. It all started with some trouble at work that led to my termination, although it wasn't really my fault. I was part of the marketing department, where our team was responsible for researching market trends and creating effective advertising campaigns for a wide range of pharmaceuticals. Our job was to analyze data, identify consumer needs, and design creative approaches that would allow the company to not only capture the attention of its target audience, but also strengthen its position in a competitive market. The team was small but friendly. We all shared a common passion for what we were doing and a drive to do something meaningful. Although there was a little conflict at times, as is common when working with people with different personalities and opinions, the overall environment was positive. We actively exchanged ideas, brainstormed, and each successful campaign felt like a shared victory. I loved my workday, coming into the office, immersing myself in analytical reports, talking with colleagues about the strategies we were about to launch. The work was challenging, but interesting. Every day brought new challenges, and I was always enthusiastic when it came to putting out promotional materials or planning expensive product launch events. I knew for a fact that the strategies we created had the potential to impact people's lives, and that gave me meaning. About a year ago, a new employee joined our department, Sam, who immediately started showing excessive activity and ambition. From day one, he acted as a vibrant locomotive, eager to roll the entire team along his path. He usually took the lead in discussions, often putting himself at the center of attention, and tried to seize the initiative in projects that seemed to be quite successfully overseen by other team members. Sam stood out for his creative suggestions and energy, but behind that mask was an excitement to dominate. I was cautiously optimistic about him at first, but soon his behavior became alarming. He often took the liberty of borrowing other employees' ideas and presenting them as his own. I watched some coworkers become perplexed, not knowing how to respond to his self-righteous antics. I noticed that he attracted the attention of management by making himself look good, while the real hard workers remained in the shadows. It was as if Sam was taking control of the atmosphere in the department, and that dynamic made me uncomfortable. One day, while I was busy doing market research for an important project, Sam unexpectedly invited me to participate in his secret initiative, which I quickly realized was strictly forbidden by internal company rules. He assured me that we had a chance to create something really great and win big bucks on the company's stock. I felt that it was all very risky, and I immediately declined. I realized that getting involved in such a project could not only backfire on me in the long run, but would also threaten my career. After my refusal, Sam began to put pressure on me. He seemed to know about my financial problems and used that as a bargaining chip. Soon he began offering me money in exchange for my silence about his actions. I was shocked by this offer. At first I rejected it, feeling that it could be the beginning of moral and professional decay. I had always prided myself on my integrity and realized that agreeing to such a move could have broken my life forever. However, his blackmail attempts did not stop. Sam kept threatening to expose my personal secrets if I didn't agree. I was overcome with a feeling of fear and helplessness. I realized that he was using every trick possible, and unlike me, he wasn't shy about playing by dirty rules. His manipulations made me feel vulnerable. Thoughts of my financial difficulties and possible job loss tormented me. I worried that this brash Sam would do anything to put me in a difficult situation. It was terrifying to live in constant fear, to feel trapped in a circle of manipulation and threats. I began to doubt my decisions and suspected that disobedience could have much more serious consequences than I had imagined. The internal conflict was driving me crazy. On the one hand, I knew I shouldn't buckle under his pressures, but on the other hand, I realized that the lack of money and his threats had turned this struggle into a true test. At times like these, I lacked the support and confidence to find the strength and courage to confront the situation again. For several weeks, Sam continued to burden me with extra work that I had to do outside of work hours. It was as if he was catching me at every turn, trying to hide his true intentions behind a mask of friendship and cooperation. I could feel his control over me becoming more and more intrusive. One day he suddenly approached me and offered to help me with his project. Supposedly it was to make my job easier, but really it was just a way to get me to work for him for free. I had to work overtime to meet his impossible demands, and I realized that he was actually using me as a means to achieve his goals. Despite all this, I tried to explain to management that I was not involved in his projects and that implementing them was not in line with the company's internal rules. Every time I raised the issue, I was ignored and stubbornly left out. I felt that my voice didn't matter, and it was extremely humiliating. I felt like the leadership was blindsided by what was happening, and it was deeply frustrating. When I realized that Sam was planning to blackmail me, I knew something had to change. I couldn't let it go unchecked. He forced me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, binding me into commitments that seemed foolish and inappropriate. This only reinforced my fears and embittered me about the situation. Putting it all together, I made the decision to contact HR to speak up about his misconduct. I hoped that this would be an opportunity to speak up about everything that was going on and maybe stop his manipulation. But when I got to HR, the situation was even more unpleasant than I expected. I was told that I needed to wait for an investigation and that they could take no action at this time. I felt all sorts of emotions from frustration to anger engulf me. I realized that this could take some time and I was determined to defend myself, but I was being left alone with my fears and anxiety. However, I was still hopeful that the company would take action. I decided that I would not sit idly by while life passed me by. If my voice and actions couldn't be heard by the company, then I must look for other avenues. I began documenting every encounter I had with Sam, recording his threats and manipulations. I made a detailed report of what was going on, the additional projects he was pushing, and the documents he was forcing me to sign. This gave me some degree of control in the situation. A few days after I reached out to him, I received some terrible news. The CEO of the company had decided to fire me. I just couldn't believe that this was actually happening. He accused me of violating corporate rules, claiming that I had created a negative image of the company with my actions and discussions, when in fact it had all been instigated by Sam. My heart squeezed with helplessness. I knew the accusations were unfair, but at that moment I couldn't resist management's decision. All my attempts to convey the truth and defend myself failed. I was asked to leave after 2 weeks, and I felt the ground slipping away from under my feet. I lost a job that I valued, and that gave me the opportunity not only to develop myself, but also to support my family. Every hour I spent in the office in the last few days was a real ordeal. I could feel the anxiety and depression building up inside me. My team, once close-knit and friendly, now simply avoided my gaze, and I didn't know how to explain to them what had happened. Every day I realized more and more that I had lost not only my job, but also my reputation. I lost my paycheck, which exacerbated an already difficult financial situation. As a consequence, the fear of the future became so real that I couldn't sleep at night, brooding endlessly about how long I would be able to pull on without a steady income. For a month after my layoff, I lived in constant fear that someone would find out about the incident and it would affect my chances of getting a job. I immersed myself daily in the search for a new job, sending out resumes, going to interviews, but all my attempts ended in disappointment. As a result, I received several rejections from companies that saw me as a potential problem. With each rejection, I felt my confidence begin to fade. I was plagued with questions. What if they find out about the layoff? What if the mere fact that I broke my contract with my previous company compromises me? These thoughts tormented me and drained me of my energy. It felt like my life was turning into an endless circle. I was facing obstacles I didn't even realize I had, and it seemed that soon I wouldn't be able to overcome them. Every time I managed to get an interview, success was quickly replaced by pressure and anxiety, and I was back to feeling completely hopeless. The job search was hard. I had a strong distrust of the people I had previously worked with and the very company that had gotten me fired. This distrust was the first barrier to finding a new position. I tried not to think about the past, but it haunted me, making me doubt every meeting, every call. Plus, the fear that word of my termination might leak out to new companies only added to my anxiety and insecurity. I could feel the distrust creeping into me about everyone around me, and it was in no way contributing to my success. Several months passed before I found a job at a small consulting firm that does medical research. I was happy when I got the offer, even though the pay was lower than before. Nevertheless, I was overwhelmed with a sense of relief and gratitude. It was not only an opportunity to resume my career, but also a chance to work in a place that valued professionalism, honesty, and a team atmosphere. There was no room for the manipulation and arrogance I had encountered at my previous position. I knew that this was exactly what I needed, an atmosphere of trust and mutual understanding where my work would be appreciated. Within a year, I was able to rebuild my lost reputation and get back to my normal life. My new colleagues helped me to integrate into the workflow and take a confident stance. I felt supported and understood by them, and this gave me the opportunity to let loose. In the process, I was able to demonstrate my skills and knowledge, which boosted my confidence. Gradually, I began to forget about the experiences that haunted me and the fact that I had managed to get through it all. Despite the difficulties I was going through, I felt confident and returned to a job that I really enjoy. I was proud that I was able to put the negativity behind me and focus on my growth. Things started to work out better than I could have imagined. I stopped dreading meetings with coworkers, worrying about being judged again. Instead, I genuinely enjoyed the socializing and interaction, and it inspired me. I began to look to the future with optimism, confidently pursuing new opportunities and challenges. I now see change as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. I have learned to set boundaries and say no when necessary, and my experiences have made me stronger. I have realized the value of supportive relationships and have surrounded myself with people who inspire and support me. This new chapter in my life was full of hope and discovery, and I felt that all the trials I went through were not in vain. Life was different after this incident, but I am sure that the lesson I learned will help me avoid similar situations in the future. It's not an easy road, but every step brings us closer to recovery and happiness. The main thing is not to give up and fight for your integrity and dignity.